Turn me up just a little bit. Yeah, it's that man space vibe. Step in the zone, microphone check. Russ and Les got the real intellect. Talk smooth like jazz on a late night set. With a convo deep and the topics connect. From the struggles to the wins, they address it with grace. Drop lines so cool, you can feel the bass. Two kings of the craft, and you know the rest. Kick back, pour a drink, welcome to the space. You go chillin' with Russ and Les. You go chillin' with Russ and Les. You go chillin' with Russ and Les. Hang out, cause now you vibing with nothing but the best. Space forever.
Welcome in to another edition of the Man Space Podcast. Now, this is the voice of Russ, and with me as always, well, he's not here. I'm running, well, not solo, but I do have a guest. But Man Space Nation, I want to talk directly to you. So over the last few years, we've seen a lot of people that are being kind of forced off of their jobs and having to make different paths, choosing different careers, choosing that kind of forced retirement and trying to find that second life. You know, a lot of people struggle with that. We were talking a couple of weeks ago with one of our Army veterans, and we were talking about how a lot of guys try to transition outside of the military and have to go right back in because they can't adjust to the life on the outside. A lot of times we don't know how to make that transition to the next chapter of your life. Now, my guest today, he is all about making that transition and helping people make that transition as a coach, as a speaker, as a, little bit of a musician too. Space Nation, give it up for my guest today. He is none other than Mr. Michael K. Yes. Michael,
Hey, Russ.
welcome to the show.
Thank you, Russ.
Oh,
It's great to be here. I that intro just blew me away. I should just leave now because I'm ahead.
You know what? Always go out on top, right?
That's it.
But if you could just share with the Man Space Nation just who Michael K is.
Well,
loaded question, right?
Yeah, it's a loaded question because I guess the best way to describe me is as I'm curious. I'm an explorer.
Mm-hmm.
I spent my career. I started out as an accountant, a CPA, and I went into financial services industry. I created my own firm as a financial advisor and a financial life planner. I've been a teacher. I've written 3 books. I've spoken internationally and around all over the country about financial planning, financial life planning, and how to live your best life and putting money in the context of your life, and not money isn't this big goal. It's what you value. And a little over 5 years ago, I sold my practice to my younger partner and transitioned out into this next chapter of my life. And as I transitioned, I'd really done a lot of thinking about what does it mean to bring this career. I started working, I was 12 years old, and I was never not working. Never.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I left a firm on Friday, I started the new firm on Monday. It's like, I'm not taking 3 weeks off to, go sit in the sun. I was, get to it. And I grew up in a family where my father grew up in the Depression, and it was like there was always something to do. Sitting on the couch was not an option. But I've always been one that says, it's like you're going to learn from mistakes. But you're not going to make mistakes if you do nothing, right? You have to be willing to step over that line and recognize that change whether you ask for it or not, is just part of life, right? We've
Yeah.
been we are transitioning, and from the time that we're born, we're little lumps of flesh and bones in the crib, and then we turn over, and then we get up and we crawl, and then we walk, and then when we learn to speak, and we get understanding, everything is new. And
Mhm.
but I think what happens, Russ, is that as we get older, we forget what it's like to reinvent, what it's
Mhm.
like to, it's like, do you remember like the first time if you learned how to ride a bicycle as a kid, and you fell off the bicycle, because every kid falls off the bicycle, but what happens next? They get back
Yeah.
on the bicycle, right?
Right.
Until they master it, until they say, okay, you
Mhm.
go from novice to mastery constantly.
Yeah.
And but the joy, remember, I mean, that joy of the first time. I remember growing up, there was a local pond. It was called Vincent's Pond at the time. They renamed it, and it would freeze up in the winter, and we'd go down there and skate. And the first time being able to be on ice skates, and you're like going, and you
Yeah.
fall, and you get up, until you finally figure out how to do that. Um, but that's what life is.
Yeah.
It's recognizing, what do we don't learn from the things that go right.
True. Very
Right.
true. Very
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. So my
I
life in a nutshell has basically been, falling off the bicycle and getting up, or, getting on the ice skates and falling over, and figuring out how to move things forward.
So you said a lot in there, and
Mhm.
I've been sitting here taking a lot of notes, to come back and get to my next question. But something that you said that I love the way you said it was you're not making mistakes if you're not doing anything, or you're not trying if
Yeah.
you're not making mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when we are younger, I think a lot of us, and this is a term that I've used a lot of late, is the Superman disease, right? When we're younger, we feel that we're invincible, so we are more willing to try things, right? But the older we get, as life gets in the way, now we've gone from just having to take care of ourselves. Now, and a lot of us have wives, children, and some of us grandchildren now. And so, and then you're closer to the end of your window than you were when you're in your 20s, right?
Yeah.
So when you think of it, at that point, you tend to want to play it a little bit safer, right? You don't,
Well,
don't want to take a little bit as many chances. So, what do you say to people that may have that kind of mindset?
I mean, listen, one always needs to assess risk.
Yeah.
And, as a retired financial planner, it was always
Mhm.
that discussion about, if you're going into an investment, you have to
Mhm.
understand the risk involved. So if
Right.
someone would come to me and say, "Oh, I've got this money, I want to put it away, I want to put it in the stock market, but I need this money in 2 years to buy a car." And I would say, "Well, the stock market could go south for 2 years, and you could lose all your money, or you could lose half your
Right.
money, or you could lose a third of your money, or whatever. And it's can you take that risk?"
Mhm.
And so you have to ask yourself about, your ability to take risk, and what's the ramifications of making a bad decision.
The
Um,
risk reward. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, you could double your money, or you could do really well if you're speculating or whatever, or you could lose it all.
Right.
And is that okay?
Mhm.
If you've got oodles and oodles and oodles of money, and you take a risk and you lose it all, and you go, yeah, okay, it doesn't change my life. But
Mhm.
if you're doing that with money that you need to pay your mortgage or your rent, that's just foolish.
Right.
So excuse me. The idea in life is like, okay, I'm probably at this stage of my life, I'm 72 years old.
Mm.
Uh, I'm not. I'm probably. I'm probably not going to like helicopter in and jump into on a mountain and ski down. I'm probably not going to do that.
Right.
Mostly because my wife would kill me if I said I was going to do that. But trying new things that interest me, why not? Right? I mean, what do I have to lose? And it's that trade-off of learning about yourself, learning where are the boundaries and where are the limitations, where are the things that we invoke in ourselves. So, for example, we are notorious, and men especially, I think, are so worried about what other people are thinking about them.
Yeah.
And
Very true.
and I tell guys all the time, nobody's thinking that hard about you. Sorry, get over yourself. They're thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you. And if they are in judgment of you, like, that's their problem, not your problem.
True.
But we have a real big problem dealing with that issue of this judgment issue of someone's going to look at us and laugh at us or tell us that we're no good or whatever. And we do a really good job of that to ourselves.
Yes.
Right. We're the greatest at telling ourselves that we stink, or that we're terrible, or that we're this or that, instead of saying, hey, we're just here exploring. It's like, what is the expectations? Someone was telling me, it's like, oh, I really wanted to learn, how to play piano or something. I was like, oh, well, why don't you do it? He goes, oh, I'm really bad at it or whatever. I'm like, well, is your expectation to, like, you're going to learn the piano and you're going to Carnegie Hall, or you're going to be on a concert tour of the world like next week? Is that what your expectation is? Because if it is, maybe you really need to rethink that. So the idea is like, why are you doing something? Why are you putting your toe over the edge? Because there's something that's drawing you. And we have to listen to that inside of us that tells us, hey, I'd like to check that out. I'd like to experience that.
Yeah. Yeah. So many people, I guess, have been pushed into this forced retirement over the last few years. Why do you feel that so many people struggle with that transition from work life to the non-work life?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things involved here. If they're forced into it, then it's this lack of control, right? Someone took this decision away from me, and they changed my life. And what I tell people who are in that situation is, they open the door to a new opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're sitting there stewing in your misery over something that happened to you, that someone did to you, you're not thinking about what other possibilities exist for you, and what that can mean. So if we look at it, it's like that, the cup's half empty or it's half full. If we look at it from a half, that we're the victim. Okay. Hey, listen, life's hard, right? I don't care who you are. I don't care where you come from. Life is hard, and everyone has challenges. I don't care if you're super wealthy or you're barely making ends meet. Life is hard.
Wow. That is so true. And when you look at it and that adjustment from one to the other, I do like the way you put it, because I think so many of us want to go out on our own terms, right?
Yeah. Sure.
And when you do it on your terms, you've made peace with everything. You've already aligned up. You know what you need to survive on the other side. But when you're kind of forced into that, now it's like, okay, yeah, you got that scramble because you're not 100% prepared,
right,
for that afterlife.
Right. You haven't lined it up. You haven't thought through the possibilities. You haven't thought through, what am I going to do? You haven't had that opportunity. And the reality is there's anger, there's frustration, there's, sadness, all these other emotions. And you feel like you have been victimized by somebody else or some company. And at the end of the day, at least in my belief, is like, if you have the right mindset, after
Mhm.
you get through your grieving process, right? After you get through your anger, say, okay, I've had my pity party. I've punched the pillow. Whatever. What do I need to do to go forward? This is not the first time
Mhm.
I've been knocked on my butt, and it won't be the last time I'm knocked on my butt. And what did I do when I got on that bicycle for the first time? I fell off. And I
Yeah.
didn't walk away and go in the house and say, "Okay, I'm done with the bicycle."
Right. Right. Now, for those that have not quite gotten there yet, but they're getting closer and closer to that point, what are some of the things, if they haven't started planning already? Because, a lot of times, we've heard about the 401k, there's the fears of Social Security, whether or not it's going to be there or not be there. The cost of everything is continually growing up. So, what are some of the things that people can do right now, no matter what the age is, to start preparing themselves?
Well, I think the first thing is to have a really good handle on the fact that you've met challenges before. You've
Hmm.
been through and I'm a big believer in say, let's go back and look in history. How many transitions have I been through that were either forced upon me or not? And
Right.
how can I prepare for and how can I understand that this is just
Hmm.
the next one? Okay.
Right.
And how did I handle the last one? How did I handle the one before that? Okay, what was
Hmm.
my mindset? I can do this. I was having a conversation with my son who is out in Chicago, and uh, and we were talking about work and things like that. And like in all places, nothing is secure.
Nothing's scary. Yeah.
And he said, don't worry, Dad. He goes, I'll figure it out. Whatever happens, I will figure it out. And
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, he'll figure it out.
Hmm.
And I think
It's
I
got a
think
good mindset.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because what's the alternative, right? The
Hmm.
alternative is, destruction, is internal destruction,
Yeah.
and internal destruction finds a way of becoming external destruction. Uh, on a financial side, and I mean, one always wants to think about the what ifs. If I lose my job, do I have enough security um, to get me through these 6 months of living?
Right.
And what do I need to do financially to put that money aside? And again, and for a lot of people who get caught up in the idea of, I need to have the new phone, I need to drive the best car, I need to look successful. um
Mm.
that again is the mindset of how other people are judging you, right? It's
Yeah.
that it's that, oh, if people see me wearing a great watch, or wearing, whatever it is, um, they're going to think I'm successful. And at the end of the day, what they think doesn't matter. But we
Yeah.
have to be able to cross that bridge, and that's a hard thing
Hmm.
to do for a lot of people. But it's having that sense of that strong sense of self.
Hmm.
But to look at your situation financially and say, okay, I need to, it's like, winter's coming. So do I have a coat? Right. It's like, okay,
Right.
right. If I'm going to move to Florida, what do I need? If I'm going to live in a hot weather climate, what do I need? If I'm going to lose my job, or there's going to be a disruption, what do I need?
Hmm.
So you want to think in terms of those things. Um, and, and again, we're not stupid people, right? We might not be the most well informed of all situations, and when it comes to money things,
Hmm.
no one's really taught really well about money. So it's like, I always tell people, find a fee only advisor that they can talk to, that won't try and sell them stuff, that just works on a fee basis, and get good information about, like, what do I need, how much do I need, what's my target, and what do I do with that money. um, socially, we can't know. It's like talking about tax rates. We don't know what tax situation is going to be like. It used to drive me crazy when people would talk about estate planning and, well, what's going to be the exclusion when I die? What's the estate tax rate's going to be when I die? I said, oh, I don't know.
Right.
Unless you die
Don't know.
today, I can't
Right.
tell you, because who knows? It's the same thing with Social Security. I can't imagine. I can imagine that there will be changes, but I cannot imagine that it will disappear.
Right.
You know, a lot of it is just whipping people up, you know, like, you know, so.
Yeah. You have a lot of people that saw these instant millionaires that was created from the stock market, and now everybody wants to jump on it. And you know, what are your thoughts with people jumping into the stock market?
Stock market is fine.
Mhm.
But for how, you know, it's the time frame, right?
Right.
It's always the time frame. If you can't leave your money there for 7 to 10 years minimum,
Mhm.
you shouldn't be there. Okay, unless you've got money that you don't care if you win or lose. But
Mhm.
if you value the money that you earn and that you make, then if you go in, it's a speculation. Anything short of long-term investing in the stock market, it's a speculation.
Right.
And as a planner, I was always a big believer in index type funds that spread out risk, instead of saying, I'm going to bet on this company or that company,
Mhm.
because your risk goes up exponentially
Right.
when you have less diversification. So I've always been a big fan of broadly diversifying portfolios and knowing how much risk you can take, a combination of short-term bonds and well diversified through the stock market, and just let it go, leave it alone. But stock pickers, one of the great stories that I from my career, someone came to me that she says, my father passed away a few years ago. He was a day trader, and
Mhm.
he was amazing. But my mother, needs some help. So I said, okay, let me take a look. And I took a look at the situation. The guy had amassed about $1 million net carry forward losses.
Yeah.
You couldn't use those carry forward losses in 3 lifetimes.
Mm.
But, everyone thought he was this hotshot day trader.
Right.
And, you only hear about the successes. That's the problem. In the media, you only hear about the successes. It's like the people who go gambling, go to the casinos. You only hear about, the big
Yeah.
hits. The guys who
Right.
go fishing, they always catch like an enormous fish. They don't. No one talks about, oh, I caught nothing. So there's a bias there in terms of what people hear.
Yeah. I knew a guy who was a day trader. He had a normal job, and the company didn't pay him a salary. They gave him stocks because he said he didn't need it. He rather have the stocks in the company. But he was a day trader during the day. And him and I were talking one day. He says, "Yeah, my wife wants to go shopping, so let me go sell a few things, you know." And he said, "Here, and just give her money." Like, so he was one of those success stories that could do it.
Yeah.
I could never figure it out. I tried, and it's just like, this isn't for me.
You have to have a very strong constitution, and you
Mhm.
also need to have a pretty sizable bankroll, because if you bet wrong,
Yeah,
you're screwed,
yeah.
right? I mean, what's the ramifications of the wrong bet?
Mhm.
So I'm fairly risk averse,
Yeah,
and I'm very heavily involved in the stock market, uh, and always have been, but it's not, but very well diversified. I don't even think about it.
right, right. Had me thinking
Yeah.
about, I went to the casino, and I've been sitting on this one game, and this lady sits down beside me, and I put in $20, and I'm playing with that same $20, and I've been sitting at this machine for over an hour, just kind of going up and down, just playing with the same $20. And this lady comes on, and I don't know what she started with, but I glance over, and she's got $1,000 that she has won on the machine, and I'm like, "What in the world?" and I see she's maxing out every single bet. And I'm just like, okay. So I got up to about $100 and I said, let me just try this. I was down to nothing within a blink of an eye, trying to do what she was doing. And I'm just like, that doesn't work for everybody.
No. And you know what, it's listen, that's why it's gambling, because it's not, it can't be in your favor. Otherwise the casinos would all go bust. So,
Yeah.
but for, entertainment, whatever, it's fine. But if it's for a livelihood, I don't recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really want to talk about this because, as you can see over my shoulder, and the people in podcast land on the audio side, you can't, but there's an Alabama Crimson Tide helmet over my shoulder, and the legendary coach of Alabama is always going to be Bear Bryant, right? We know Nick Saban, but Bear Bryant is always the legendary coach. And when Bear finally retired, like within weeks of him finally retiring, he passed away.
Right.
A lot of times, we heard the same thing with Joe Paterno over at Penn State. There's been a lot of times when people make that transition out of the workforce that they don't have their identity. So who is the person, and how do they find that person outside of their job?
Yeah, it's such, Russ, it's such a good question. And it's such a difficult topic, because we see ourselves as our titles, as our job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a CPA, I'm a certified financial planner, I'm a this, I'm a that. And those are just attachments to the work we do, but it's not who we are. Okay. And yeah, Coach Bryant, Paterno, they lived and breathed what they did. There was no room for anything else. But for most people, if we have family, if we have interests, if we have friends, if we have, we need to think in a more holistic sense of who were we before we became whatever that title was: doctor, attorney, teacher. We were someone else, right? Who were we? And I think we need to go back, and we need to think back. What are some of the attributes of who we were before we became that job? Okay. And, in our society, and it's not, I don't see it as necessarily a good thing, but in our society, we relate, the job title to success and to admiration. And, I was talking with an academic who works with CEOs, and it was really interesting, because what he was telling me, you would think, okay, if you think CEO of the world's biggest corporations, right? What do you think of? You think of, super important, super
of course,
popular, super whatever. These are the loneliest people on the planet. They have literally no one to talk to, because there's no one ahead of them, above them, and they can't talk to the people below them. They answer, so these people are caught in a vice. And, I'm not sitting there saying, oh, we need to, hold a telethon for poor CEOs who are making buku bucks, but that understanding of, the image that's out there is not necessarily, it's not the full picture.
Yeah.
So, it's like, what happens to someone who comes out of corporate America and they no longer have their title. They don't have they don't have the community of the people they work with anymore. They don't have a paycheck. They might have a pension or whatever, or Social Security, but they don't have a paycheck, and they don't have, they don't know what they're doing the next day. Right. When you're working, when you wake up in the morning, you know what you're doing. But when that goes away, you now have this blank canvas that needs to be filled to one degree or another. And part of it has to, I think, is like, let's look at the parts of our lives. We have our
Mhm.
health, our
Yes.
family, our home, our community, our our spirituality.
Mhm.
So all these different aspects of our lives need to be attended to. And
Right.
so let's look at ourselves in terms of our relationship to others. Who do we care about? Who do we love?
Right.
Who do we what do we value?
Mhm.
What do we have to now bring to the world after a lifetime of experience and a lifetime of knowledge and a
Yeah.
lifetime of getting knocked on your butt and getting back up again? Like, what do we have now to share with others? And that idea of generativity, of sharing, of paying it forward, of giving that which
Yeah.
we've learned to the next generation so that they can succeed. Um, there's a lot there for us to work on. The
Mhm.
question is like, where do you start? And that's what I think gets a lot of people um, really stuck.
Yeah.
And what I tell people is like, you're feeling, what are you feeling now? Like, I'm really uncomfortable. I said, okay, good. Because
Right.
no one ever died from being uncomfortable. Okay. But it's telling you something. Listen to what it's telling you. It's telling you that you don't see a direction. Okay, I need a direction. Well, where do I start? Who do you care about? What do you care about? What do you value?
Right.
Who are the people in your life that or the activities in your life that bring you joy? And start writing those things down. And I
Yeah.
think that's a place to start. I've had people say like, I don't know what to do. And I hear this all the time. It's like, well, I don't know what I'd like to do. I said, well, do something. I don't care what it
Yeah.
is, but do something. And if you don't like it, don't do it again. If you like
Mhm.
it, do it again.
Do it again.
Right. So the idea is like, be willing to try, be willing to fail, be willing to look at it as an exploration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I was thinking briefly when you were talking about the titles. Uh, I remember working for a company, and a VP of the company came up to me and he introduced himself, and I instantly called him Mister. He says, "Don't do that." He says, "Forget the title." He says, "I put my pants on the same way you do, one leg at a time." And he says, I'm not my title. My name is Tony." And he introduced himself as Tony. And so from that point on, and to this day, I mean, this is 15, 16 years later, we're still, associates with each other. Both of our lives have moved in completely different directions, but we still, talk to each other. "Hey, Tony, how you doing?"
Yeah.
And it was just, I think you were so right. A lot of people get lost in that title, right? I remember being at a company, and a CEO comes walking around the corner of the company, and I'm standing there at the elevator, and the elevator door opens up, and he just stands there, and he's like, "No, you guys go ahead." He won't even get on the elevator with other people. It's just like, you're right. Maybe some, in some situations, those CEOs are very, very lonely,
Yeah.
and because they're so close, they've been put in this bubble
Yeah.
where they're up on this pedestal, and they can't. They have problems starting to relate to other people that are not on that same pedestal.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't have that sensitivity towards what other people are going through because we're
Mhm.
not there, right? We know what we're
Right.
going through. We know what challenges we feel.
Mhm.
Um, and but we really don't understand that. We only project ourselves and our own thoughts and our own experiences onto other
Yeah.
people. It's like what do we consider?
Yeah.
What does success mean?
Mhm.
Right? Like, what does
Ooh.
success mean? Is success
Yes.
tied to a dollar sign? Is
Mhm.
success tied to being able to put your head on the pillow at night
Right.
and feeling like I'm okay?
Yeah.
Is it related to our health? you know, and our well-being and our family, and like, what are
Yeah.
those things that we consider makes us feel successful, you
Yeah.
know?
For me, I would answer that question as it being tied to my family. Is my family taken care of?
Yeah.
Long as my family is happy, then I am successful, right?
Right. Right.
I've they got food on the table, roof over their head, where nobody's chasing us down for bills, everything is covered, we're good. I'm successful, right? Now, for you, how would you define success?
You know, I'll years ago, I had a client came in, and an older woman. She was a retired pediatrician, and she came in with a walker.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry that this is a kind of a visual, but I can't. And I said to her, I said, Suzanne, how are you doing? This is the first time I ever met her, and she puts her arms out, her elbows out to the side, and she moves her elbows out in both directions. She goes, Michael, every day, she says, I get up in the morning, I go like this, and she moves her elbows to the side. She goes, if I don't feel wood, it's a good day. So let's start there, right?
I'm sorry. But that sunk in, and I'm like, okay, that's great. That's
Right? Right? It's
every
like,
day above the dirt is a good day. Yes.
exactly, exactly. And so, like,
Yes.
let's start there with success, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I can, you know, get out of bed. I don't need any assistance.
Mhm.
You know, I thank God, you know, knock on wood that, you know, my faculties are still intact, and that I've got a great family and three wonderful granddaughters and two healthy, wonderful kids. And my wife and I, you know, she still puts up with me. So it's like,
Mhm.
after 49 years of marriage, um, it's, I mean, the blessings are bountiful.
Little there.
So, so I start there with gratitude. You know, it's like, I'm very blessed, and it's like, okay, what can I do today to help the people in my life that I care about? What are
Yeah.
the things I can do? You know, I do a little volunteer work. I meet with two elderly people, and who have macular degeneration. They can't see to
Mhm.
write their checks out. And I go visit them once a week, and I help them write their bills out and help them guide their hand so they can sign. And it's like, okay, it's a very little thing, but it made someone feel good.
Mhm.
It made them feel okay, you know, that they're getting their bills paid. Um, I look at things like, okay, what can I explore that's next? Like, that to me is success. To
Yeah.
try something new that I've never done, and see, where was my resistance? How was I feel about that? What was my mindset around it? Even though I completely, I don't know if I shared this, or I took a pottery workshop, and
Oh, really?
where, you
Okay.
know, on the wheel, and I'd never done this before. And there was a young man who was a graduate student who was the teacher, and he's saying, "Oh, you're going to be frustrated." And I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "I don't expect to make a museum quality piece of artwork. I'm just feeling the clay in my hands."
Yeah.
And that's the experience. So so much of it is how we go about it. Um, you know, as I was sharing with you before, I had, you know, a little bit of a health set situation that was not serious, but it took me out of my workout routine and things
Yeah.
like that. And, you know, where I was doing, you know, one arm rows with 75-pound dumbbells, I was
Mhm.
struggling at 35 pounds. And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, I got to roll the ball, you know, roll the rock back up the hill to build myself
Right.
back to where I was. And you can get depressed about it. You can get down about it and say, oh, I'm terrible. I'm so weak. I can't do this. I was like, no, 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 no. I can do this. So, so much of it is just this continual reminder of all the blessings, all the gratitude that, you know, there's nothing that's perfect, you know. Um, you know, I'll never play first base for the Yankees. I've come to grips with that finally. Um, and you know, it's like, it doesn't get any better than that. If I can help some people and be there with my kids and my grandkids, do some stuff with my wife, like it's
Yeah.
it's all good.
That's so awesome. That is so awesome.
That's success.
So let's talk about your coaching program for a little bit. Let's dive into that because do you have a full program that you're out there and people can find it and find out information about the program, join the program? And who are you looking for? Like, who is your ideal client within the program?
Yeah, I do a little bit of coaching. I don't do as much as I was doing, say, 4 or 5 years ago. I do it on a selected basis only because I don't want to be sitting in front of a computer screen, 8 hours a day.
Right.
So I've really been I devoted more time to writing the book, How to Craft Your Chapter X, and doing some writing around that, because I do 3 blog pieces a week and people can find me at michaelfk.com, and they can sign up to get the blogs and listen to podcasts. And I do a monthly Zoom meeting, and it's aimed mostly at men who are transitioning to life after career. I'm putting together a workshop with a therapist up in Boston, where we'll be kind of rolling out our first workshop together for probably no more than eight couples, probably in October. And then we'll look to see the success of that and how that's received, and then see about expanding from there. But I'm always willing to talk to people and either give them some guidance, do a one-off coaching thing. There are some people that need something more, but I think typically people just need to kind of want to talk and say, okay, well, let's just have a conversation, see if something else is really needed beyond a, kind of a 30-minute, let's just chat. And I'm always happy to do that with people.
So you mentioned your book, How to Craft Your Chapter X. What do you mean by Chapter X?
I'm so glad you asked that question. So I called Chapter X, well, the genesis of Chapter of X is from my 8th grade algebra class, where the teacher kept pounding us, you got to solve for X. You got to solve for X. And I hated algebra. I hated it with such a burning passion that everything about it was just the worst to me. So, but it's always rolled around in my head. I got to solve for X. So I look at this post-career time as something we have to solve for. We have to kind of figure out what's right for us. And there is no blueprint that says this is what's right for everyone. Not everyone, there's some people who they love pickleball and they love tennis, or they love basketball, or they love, they do different sports or whatever it is, or they're marathon runners, or some, whatever it is. I mean, and so there's no one size fits all. Everyone has to find out what's right for them. And what I tried to do in the book was to kind of provide exercises for people to realize that this transition, while difficult, it is difficult because it's the bell, it's the ringing of the bell of the end of something. Okay, so it's the end of your life as a employee, employer, professional, whatever your title was. But it's also the beginning of something, right? And that beginning can be amazing. But we need to think this through. We need to look at the various aspects of our life. Do I need to work on my health? Do I need to work on my relationships? One of the biggest things for men especially is relationships after work, of finding community. And that is really challenging for men especially. Women are a lot better at it as a rule than men are. So what do I have to do to, like, I haven't, I had my colleagues, I had my employees, I had my clients, I saw people every day. Now I have to make an effort to go out and, call someone or create a lunch or a coffee or meet someone for some activity. And I've got to do that. So
Yeah.
some people are really good at it. Some people really have to work at it.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Wow. There was so much in that. Um, so Chapter X, this is your third book of your series. Now, what are the titles of your other two?
Well, the first book that I wrote was really aimed for financial advisors. It was called
Mhm.
It was called um, The Business of Life, and it was really helping advisors create a life planning practice that was really client centered. The second book I wrote was called The Feel Rich Project, and that was for consumers around how to create a financial life that is based on your values. It's just it's got some I think some really good stories in it, some um, uh, guidelines as to creating a budget and thinking about
Right.
what is the full aspect of your life. So these were so those two books I wrote while I was working. This book I was published in early February of this year, and it was a lot easier to write because I wasn't working full time. But it was also the book I didn't want to write, um, but I did anyway.
Mm.
And that's a whole nother story. And I'm currently struggling through trying to write a novel.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay. Any indication on what that may entail?
it's it's kind of a I can't even go there. It's kind of complicated, but
Yeah.
it is it's a story about the Archangel Michael.
Mm. Okay. Very interesting.
Okay.
Well, when you release that one, you definitely have to get back to me and, we can get you on and we can talk
Uh-huh.
about that one because
Okay.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm very curious. So, how can people find your books? How can people find out more information about you? I know you mentioned your website
Yeah.
earlier, but
Yeah.
if you could go ahead and share that one more time with us.
Sure. It's Michael, Michael, F as in Frank, KKAY.com. And everything is on there. You can subscribe to the blogs. There's no I don't charge any. I mean, if I engage someone in a coaching relationship, there's a charge. But if someone just wants to have a conversation, there's no charge. The
Right.
blogs, the podcasts, whatever, is all just part of my passion to help people. And the books are, you can find them on the website, or you can Barnes and Noble or Amazon, whatever. And yeah, to me, it's about trying to help people. It always has
Yeah.
been, whether as an accountant or an advisor or now as a coach and a whatever I am, I don't know, a grandpa. My job is to help people and be there in support of their journeys while
Yeah.
making them a part of mine.
Wow. I'm going to do this anyway because you might have stole my thunder on this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And we have one last thing for you, which we'd love to call the last word.
And now, the last word.
Now, with the last word, you mentioned you're married for 49 years, grandfather. What do you want your legacy to be?
I hope and wish and pray that the lives I've touched are just a molecule better for having been with that person or talked to that person. Um, if it's just a molecule, an atom, then it's a win. Um, I'm a hugger. It's like The more people that I meet and that it ends off in a hug, I'm happy, because it means that we've touched each other's lives in more than just a verbal way. And I hope that in interactions that I have with people, that they feel that hug, that I truly care about their success and their happiness and their challenges, because we all go through it. We're all in this together. We all come at it from different ways, and we have different experiences, and but we're all in this together, because that's all we have.
Wow. Tremendous. Tremendous. Michael, thank you so much for spending time with me here. This has been a very interesting interview. I really enjoyed talking with you. Manspace Nation, guys, go out to his website, michaelfk.com, and, hey, just reach out. Check out the blogs, check out the podcast, get the books, and even more, just drop him a note to say hi.
Awesome.
Michael, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Russ, I appreciate you as well. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share this with you, and I send you a hug.
Received, my friend. Take care.
You too.
No gimmicks, just game that my sure in sight. They shine like the city on a Friday night. Man talk, real talk, that's the way that you bless. Giving knowledge and some laughs in the same finesse. From life goals to the jokes that hit. They the tag team champs, yeah, legit with the wit. So pull up a chair, let the stress digest. From the beat drops, you know the rest.